Uh, Mitch, first, I'd like to welcome you to our podcast, which is unusual because it's visual as well as being recorded.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm glad you did your hair and you spruced yourself up.
Absolutely, absolutely, because I knew you were going to be recording me today.
Yes, that's right. So I mean, you're a well-known auctioneer, and obviously you know the power of branding. So why don't we go with that for now, and we could talk about what led you to become an auctioneer.
Sure. I mean, I think branding certainly, and I took a bit of time when I was setting myself up as an auctioneer, because I'd come out of a sales position in McGrath in the Southern Shire of Sydney, and I knew how strong the branding was behind any product.
Yep.
So once I knew that, I knew then that when I wanted to set myself up as an auctioneer, I need to just cut through and set up a style that I resonated with and that people would resonate with, because they still see that I think your auctioneer should come looking smart, looking great, ready for business. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, just get a good strong colour that cut across the palette and then be able to represent that each time I came to the actual auction. So I thought if I set that up without the face on it, so it wasn't just about the person, but it was about what the expectation was of what you're going to get on the day.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, coming out of sales into auctioning, it just sort of was an obvious move for me.
Well, that's a great thing to have, Mitch, just having that experience of knowing what it's like to be, what to experience with vendors and what the sort of pressures that they're under and the stresses. Whereas I guess there's a lot of auctioneers out there who don't have that real world in the lounge room experience, even for that pre-campaign period. And that's so critical. I see that as being such a valuable part of what you provide.
Totally. I know that when I was working in sales, I knew what I wanted from an auctioneer. I knew that I needed someone who had a connectivity with me, but I also needed to know that they understood the process of what it took to get to that day, so that the auctioneer wasn't just the guy who turned up with an A-frame and a hammer, called a bunch of numbers and then left. That he was actually stepping through the process, and he knew kind of what to say to the vendors when we were standing in front of them before the auction, how to get them ready for auction, what to even go and chat to the buyers, that are out there and get them prep ready to actually bid, which a lot of the time doesn't happen. I'm fortunate that most of the times I'm there for the whole open house prior to the auction, so I can actually go and talk to people and just be part of the vibe and get the sense of where it's going to go. And I think you only get that having lived that dread of being on auction day as an agent and going, there's no one here, or, all those dreadful scenarios that can happen. But to actually know and have lived through that and then be on the other side of it, you can support the agent a little bit better. Definitely.
Well, that's amazing. So you're actually going to the property for the whole inspection before, not just turning up 5 minutes for auction and photo. Wow, that's so cool.
I mean, I'm fortunate at the moment that my calendar allows me that, and I also try not to book in auctions so close that I'm literally running in at the last 5 minutes, because that just unsettles the agent. Even if they know you and they understand you've got a busy day, you still want to be able to just take that breath, and for the vendors as well, know that you're actually there as part of it, and they see more value in the fee that you're charging if you're not just there for the calling of the numbers, hammer down. I'm sure they're after a result too, but they know and they see value. If it doesn't sell under the hammer, they at least know that you've been there and you've provided a service beyond.
Well, that I can see that gives you some ability then to have relatedness with the vendor and with the agent for if for instance it didn't sell. I mean, there's that other opportunity there where you become another part of the team and a valuable resource, which
Totally.
If you don't have that level of relatedness, I find that that'd be very hard for you to just to come in afterwards and trying to have any sort of influence with them. How do you?
Yes, totally. I'm very committed to being like, from once I get the booking from the agent, I go, okay, let me have a chat to the vendors now. Let me introduce myself. If you want that,
Right.
Some do, some don't, and I'm happy to be the auctioneer that they want me to be. If they want me to get involved and be part of the team and active throughout the whole campaign, I'm happy to do that. or I can be the guy and goes, just turn up on the day, just give me your 20 minutes of service and then, move on. I can be that as well. But I kind of like getting more involved with the agent throughout the process, so that when I get there, I actually know who the buyers are, what the stories are. Every real estate sale's got a story to it. And I like knowing that story so that I can come in on the day and go, oh yeah, that's that buyer. I know who they are. Because I've been part of it. And even talking to the vendors the night before, just saying, how's everything going? You're in good hands. Agent X has told me about all the issues that you've been having, or we're good to go. It's just that extra feeling of the team that's going to be there helping them on auction day.
It is so much about that, bringing the connection in and having the team work together. I guess, do you notice a difference between agents that keep you really separate versus the ones that bring you in as part of the team? And I guess there's two parts to this. Obviously, really importantly, is the result that's achieved. Yeah. But I think what's an underestimated part of the process is the experience that everybody has through it as well. So do you notice there much of a difference there between those that keep you close and those that keep you distant?
Yeah, I think you can get good results in either scenario. And it depends on the agent's own personality. Some feel quite vulnerable and they don't want you to see inside their world because it might expose something that they feel insecure about. Whereas there are other people who tell me every step of the way, again, depending upon their personality type, and want me to be part of that team. I certainly feel more comfortable on auction day with those ones who I've been able to work with. And then also become that ear for them if they need someone just to chat to, if they're a lot of independents who don't have a network of people in the office where they can talk to another lead agent and say, this is happening, what can I do? What do you think? Let me run something by you. That's when I find I'll often get a call from an agent and go, you've got this experience on that, and you start to become the trusted advisor, which is the role that I like to be, that I can be there on the outside and not being part of the emotion of the listing agent, which they often get that very, very connected moment with the vendors. It allows me to see it a little bit more from the outside, I think.
Well, what I really hear in that is that you being there and having that level of connectedness. There's nothing for any agent to be ashamed of, no matter what's gone on in the campaign. You're there on their side. Yeah. There's no right or wrong in whatever they've done. All I can see in this is there's an opportunity for them to get a fresh set of eyes through yours, where you're 100% there to offer them maybe some coaching or something different that they weren't aware of, because you've got a totally different, fresh set of eyes. Yes. And you're not there to say, hey, you shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that. You're going to be there to say, hey, I just noticed over here, if we look at this could make a difference here. And that's what I get from what you're saying. Yeah.
And I think because I came from a company that trained people really well, but was very closeted in the way that they hold their values. It was this way and that was the only way. It allows me to then look at other people who maybe haven't been exposed to the level of training that we were given within that industry, to go, okay, well, what about this? What about that? Because there are a lot of guys out there who are literally still just given a phone and a business card and say, go do your best.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel that I can maybe be that link. I don't want to be another trainer. I think there's plenty of people doing an amazing job out there doing that now. But in part of me supporting people through teaching them the auction process if they're not familiar with it, or supporting them through that process, I'm happy to be that, which is a little bit more personal, I suppose.
Mitch, just a question for you. I mean, you said you were an entertainer in the early part of your career. What was that? One of the driving forces behind you migrating into being an auctioneer? Because obviously on the day you're the star. You are. You're the entertainer. You try and extract the best out of the group in front of you.
Yeah.
Does that really appeal to you from that perspective, the role?
Yeah. I went into real estate probably, I think I was early 40s when I went into that. And and basically because I knew as an entertainer, you have a shelf life. There's a point in time where people, it just doesn't exist anymore. So I went into real estate because I'd always bought and sold properties and was very interested in it. Obviously went into the sales role, and although I enjoyed that and I learned an enormous amount from being in that role, I then saw the value of what I know from my previous experience in other industries, put it together with that, it made the perfect fit for me. So even though I didn't go into real estate with the view of being an auctioneer, I certainly saw that being throughout, quite a few years into it. I thought, okay, so this is where I'm actually better fit for the industry. And for me, it allowed me that freedom of being the showman on the day, providing the theatre and reading crowds and knowing all that, which I was used to. I grew up doing that. So, it made sense, it made perfect sense that was my role within the real estate industry.
It certainly makes perfect sense from my perspective, just knowing that about you. But how many shows could you put on in any given week as an auctioneer?
How many shows, man?
How many shows? I mean, auctioneers are known for doing most of their work on a Saturday, but are there other days that you work, and how many gigs do you do on a given day?
Yeah, so at the moment, again, as you said, most of my work is predominantly on a Saturday. The rest of my week is still involved in training people. My wife and I have had a dance studio business for the studio's been going for like 52 years this year. I've been involved with it for 40. So it's been around a long time. It's got a really good rep. And again, it just sort of reiterates that helping people achieve their goals type thing.
Yes.
Which is what I've done all my life. So that still is a big part of my world during the week. But having said that, I'm now at a point in that business structure where I can go, okay, Thursday night we're doing in-rooms, the whole night's yours, and I can be flexible with that. But I think the more to the question is how many, like I can be doing an auction in one area of Sydney in a front yard, which is probably really vocal and loud, and you've got to be forceful when you're dealing with, people who are 100 metres away. And then I'll move into a smart apartment in Edgecliff where my whole demeanour will change in the way that you're running it. And you just have to, again, know the crowd, know who your clients are when you're speaking to them and how to speak to them, so that you're not,
I'm sure you
across the front yard the whole time.
I'm sure you're used to being in front of different crowds and certainly of differing sizes. When you started in the entertainment industry, you probably had crowds of two people and a dog and a cat. You've actually got used.
It sounds like my first auction too.
So from an outsider's point of view, you're just Joe Public over here. I turn up and every auctioneer has the same auctioneer's voice. What is it about the what they teach you in as an auctioneer?
At auction school.
At auction school.
Auction school.
I mean, I can't get my tongue around words so fast as an auctioneer can.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I get it. I don't think I'd ever be auctioning cattle because I'm not that guy. I don't have that voice at all, and I don't have that roll in my tongue or any of those. So
that is amazing.
Maybe I failed auction school from that point of view. I missed the part of talking.
I think auctioneers. I think as a sideline, auctioneers also call horse races.
Yeah. I actually went to a horse auction once, and I was like, man, that man can talk. I don't know how anyone understands him. So, and that's when I kind of made a conscious decision not to be that style. I like to just talk in a much more relaxed style, so that I can get the guys to feel comfortable to talk to me and not intimidate them and go, man, I don't get what's going on.
Yep.
My whole thing is, even as an auctioneer, I'm here to help you buy the property today.
So that's actually a really good point, Mitch, because I don't know too many people that are going to open up and give you their best if they feel scared or frightened or intimidated. And in most people, when they feel that way, they tend to want to run. not open up and give.
That's it.
So that's actually a really good distinction. I've not really heard anybody say that like that before.
And I've been to a few auctions as a punter, like as a bidder, and I've got to tell you, half the time I don't even understand what they're saying.
I know, right?
It's like, how am I supposed to bid if I can't make out the words?
Yeah. So, and that's my big thing is that let's just slow this down a bit. Let's just all help each other out.
Yeah,
and
right.
sure, you need a pace and a momentum to get the emotion going.
Mm.
But if they all understand that I get that they don't do this every day of the week, and they're really nervous because they're about to make a purchase that could change their life, both financially and emotionally.
Yep.
So they need a bit of downtime to actually think about what they're going to do.
Yes.
I try to give them that space.
Yes. I mean, you obviously enjoy being with people. I've got to say, but how did you cope during COVID, where you couldn't be with people?
Oh man, that was hard.
How'd that go?
Yeah, no, literally, it was like we were in lockdown because both of the industries that I work in just shut down overnight.
Yeah.
So we were. I'm really good at Netflix binging now. I've worked that out.
I've done a bit of that myself.
and I do probably need just to tape it, not start at 12 o'clock with a glass. I need to wait a little bit longer.
What? That's not normal.
It's not normal.
It's the new normal, isn't it?
It's the new normal, right? Yeah.
5 o'clock become midday.
That's it. No, but that's what I missed probably the most was the interaction with other people and just getting out and getting back into the community again.
But what did you do? I mean, did you run any auctions online during that time?
Yeah, so initially I did a lot of research into options because all of the agents that I was working with said to me, "What are we going to do? I've got auctions booked in. You know, we need to service these people who need to sell their home, their vendors." And I said, "Okay, so let me look at all the different platforms that are available." I looked at quite a few. I sort of nominated one or two, and I said, ultimately, it's the one that you're most comfortable with, but I can work with any of these. And from the day when I think the Wednesday night was the last night that we could hold an auction, I did my last live auction in a backyard with only registered bidders or standing on crosses.
Yep.
And then it closed down and we couldn't hold them at all. And then from there in, all of the agents that I work with made a decision not to move forward with any online platforms, and they all waited. Luckily, we didn't have to wait too long. They either flipped them to private treaty or we just waited.
Okay,
so there's a few people that did wait and we got a great successful result for them, you know, when we got back to live auctions.
Right. Why do you think the agents were hesitant about online? What was it there, do you think, for them that just had them go, you know what, I don't want to go online with it?
Yeah, and I think, because I spoke to a few people who had done, both agents and auctioneers, who had done the online platform, and I said, how is it working for you? And they said, it will never be the same. It's not the same because you lose the ability to go and talk to your buyers in a way that you can face to face. You can't do that while they're on the screen on the internet, but I've also got to try and get them off that and talk to them on the phone so that I can say what I need to. You can't replicate that emotion that is face to face. You just can't. Yes, we can give you an option, but it's not a parallel option. So yeah, most of the guys just said, no, we'll wait. We'll wait. And I understand that. Yeah.
But as you know, Mitch, you know, the form that a traditional auction takes is not the only auction style known to man. There are several.
Yes.
And why is it that the real estate industry sticks with the one that that everyone knows?
I think most people are in a comfort zone where they don't like to step out of it. It's their safety. And it's why a lot of people still will use the same auctioneer all the time.
Right.
They feel safe with that. They want to eliminate risk when they go to sell someone's home, because I still believe most agents that I deal with, and certainly most that I know, are still very passionate about making sure they do the right thing by their vendors. There's not many out there who are just going, sell it, it doesn't matter what I get for it, as long as I get the com. Those people don't last in the industry. And the agents who are still genuine want to do the right thing by their vendors, which means that they actually want to eliminate the risk, and they see changing that as risk, and they don't feel in control of the situation. So I think that's probably why we've stuck with it. I mean, we're still, Australia is still a country that auctions a lot for general properties, not just the obscure ones or the ones where you've got a receiver in control.
Yep.
Which is how it is in a lot of other countries. So we still see it as a really good option. And I think just history and time and developing a really good knowledge about how to make the auction process work.
Well, you busted one myth that I was going to, that the general public probably have about, agents who just want to flick something on at any cost, just because an auction gives you a finite date for a sale.
Yes,
generally,
it does.
Some of the other, let's bust a couple of myths as well. A couple of extra myths. One is that in a room full of people, most are put there by the agent. True or not true? Dummy bidders.
Not true.
Okay. That the auctioneer is in collusion with the agent.
Not true.
Okay. What other?
And I'll qualify that one because I'm not a commission-based earner.
Okay.
I get a fee. I get a fee whether I'm selling a $500,000 unit or whether I'm selling a $5 million waterfront. The fee is the same. For me, my fee is the same. It's quantified at this is what my service is worth. If I was commission-based, I think it would then it would compromise my integrity as far as collusion with agents, because then it's in my best interest. Whereas at the moment, I just want to get a great result.
Well, I'm from outside the real estate industry, Mitch,
Yes.
and I've grown up going to auctions where people around me were saying certain things about the way it was structured and the way the deal was going down, and over the years, people can't help being a little bit cynical and jaded, and
look,
and
George,
skeptical.
I get what you're saying there, George. Actually, I think to preface that, what Mitch is saying is that doesn't happen now, but I think back in the day that stuff did happen. It used to happen a lot. And that's why there was some regulations brought out around making it a real, it's quite a nasty offence to do dummy bidding now. And back in the day, that wasn't really that well regulated, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that, Mitch?
Totally. You would take a call from the tree. Sorry, what was that? I heard. There's another bid there. I'm sure I heard that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, now it's much more regulated. Yeah.
I do understand that it's much more regulated, but what the industry has failed to do is communicate that with Joe Public. So internally, you guys do know that. Like the real estate agents and auctioneers, we know what we know the rules and how things have become stricter. But for Ma and Pa Kettle out there, and they don't understand that because it's not being communicated well.
Correct.
And they still walk around with the same old assumptions.
Yeah. And it's, I think, because everyone has always said it, it's that perpetuated, the car salesman, real estate salesman, they're all the same.
Yep.
They just want the sale. Yeah.
Yep. And we know how regulated the real estate industry has become over the last 20 years. It's incredible. I don't think you could say the same for business brokering or for used car salesmen.
Correct.
Yeah.
We've moved up the ladder.
We have indeed, and now it's almost a sub-university degree to become a real estate agent. So it's going that way. So what are some of the most momentous changes that you've seen for an auctioneer in your time as an auctioneer?
I think certainly the whole regulation of that whole dummy bidding and accountability. For the agent and for the auctioneer to be doing the right thing within the structure of the law. You step outside that now, you lose your house. I don't want to lose my house. I've worked hard and long to get what we've got. I think now that's probably the biggest catalyst is when the Real Estate Institute actually pulled it in and then started enforcing that. And you saw some big guns losing everything and being deregistered out of the industry. And you go, okay, let's all make sure that everyone's now accountable, even down to just from when you list the property to when you sell it, the agent, the paperwork that you have to do now, every phone call, everything, the notation of that to make sure that you're sitting, because you never know when fair trading is going to walk in your front door.
So you need to retain contemporaneous notes of every conversation, do you?
I certainly take notes from throughout the campaign. If I've had a chat with an agent and they've moved a price guide or something's changed, I certainly notate that, and I've got a file that I keep on each and every property. I also, for my own records, make sure that on the day of the auction, when I get back to my office, I make sure that I've noted what the reserve was, what all the the paperwork, how many bids, what the result was, so that if anyone ever came in and said, Mitch, hold on, we've got a dispute on this, what happened? Because again, there's many, many stories of what happens on the auction floor. And every scenario is completely different. And you've really got to know your stuff to make sure that you handle that correctly during the course of the campaign.
Yeah. Mitch, sorry, Barry, go ahead.
You go. Do you have a question, George?
Oh, well, I was going to segue into some of your funniest moments. Have you ever sung an auction?
Have I ever sung an auction? No, but you're giving me some ideas. Maybe I can be the all singing, all dancing auctioneer.
Well, we're having fun here in the conversation, but what are some of the funny moments that you've experienced? Surely there must have been a couple.
Yeah, look, there's always stories and things. I think the most that I always remember, it's probably not so much funny, but it's when you stand there and you go, okay, well, what do I do now? Like when a whole family just walk out through the middle of an auction because you didn't, someone bid against them, and you've got 10 people in the family with mum and grandma and everyone in tow, and you go, okay, well, this is awkward. Or I put in a vendor bid and everyone's walked out. And I've stood there with the owner and the agent, and I went, yeah, well, that didn't work so well, did it? We may have got that vendor bid a little too high, or, there's certainly those moments.
Wow.
But
there's always positives. There's always positives out of those moments as well, right? In terms of at least everybody getting educated on what the pathway is forward from there, and
message. Absolutely, that didn't work. We need to go back.
Well, was that an example of one of your more ugliest moments? Like, what was the most ugliest moment for you?
Look, I've had a few situations where you've had to kind of get to the end of an auction and withdraw the property because something didn't feel right. Or there was one recently where, especially at the moment, because buyers are really fixed on they're going to get the bargain of the century. So we had a property that was, the reserve was 800 and they put in a bid at 4. And when I said, no, I'm not going to take that bid, we're going to need something a bit stronger for that. Thank you very much. Love your interest, but we're selling the whole block, not just the unit on top. And so we went through that. And at the moment, they were all like, it got really ugly. And then there were people walking through the auction with their arms folded, trying to intimidate other people. And you get this scenario and you go, okay, so I know what I should do, but to actually call that takes a big deep breath and go, okay, we're passing the property in, the auction's closed, we're going to move the negotiations inside. To do that can get a bit ugly and a bit scary, but it's having the confidence to know this is not working and I've got to work in the best interest of obviously the vendor. Yeah.
Well, that takes courage as well, Mitch. What I'm hearing is like to do that when you go, okay, I'm here for a job. My job is to call it, but you've actually got to read the play and go, you know what, this is not the environment we're going to be able to get people going here and get the emotion out.
No one's going to bid under those circumstances. And there was one recently, I wasn't the auctioneer at, but one of the agents went and had a look at that I work with, and he said the police were called. And I said, how did it escalate to that without shutting it down earlier? To like there were physical brawls, and I'm going, man, we're selling houses here. Should it?
Yeah, but Mitch, you've probably have a heightened sense of perception of the mood of the crowd because of your career over the years. I would say that a general auctioneer or a lot of other auctioneers haven't had the kind of exposure to big crowds as you have.
Yeah, you know when you're dying.
Yeah, you know when they're throwing bottles at you. It's time to get off.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm out.
And it's good to know you never had to call in the bouncers.
I know, right? Yeah. No, I'd always exit before them. Yeah.
Might need them in some areas. Good idea, George.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, Mitch, in terms of like with what we've gone through in the last 3-4 months now with this COVID situation. I mean, things seem to be lifting and restrictions lifting, but like Victoria's just gone back into another lockdown. What have you come across any sort of alternatives for agents? That is there anything else that if we were to find ourselves in the situation again of a lockdown situation where we're allowed to still sell property and show them? Have you seen any other options for agents? Are you looking into stuff or?
Yeah, no, and constantly as we did when it first happened, I went and had a look at what was available. The technology is there, the platforms are there. There's even one I was looking at, which has been around for a little while, which is all run by the agent, but completely online. So there's a start date, there's an end date, but you can sell at any time. So it's probably the thing that most look like an auction. Again, the ability to work with the buyers, I think, is a little bit restricted. But there are certainly ones that don't even involve an auctioneer. So I'm shooting myself in the foot right now. But we're not required in it as part of the process. Certainly as a support network, I would be there for any of my agents or even now with this, I can help agents in Victoria or Queensland or, once you're licensed in those areas to support them. You can do this online anywhere in Australia at the moment, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there certainly are options there.
I've actually seen some of the options as well. And what I noticed is I saw one of the options that I saw, it seemed like a really good idea, but because it's so new to me and it seemed like there's a lot of moving parts to it. It wasn't just a matter of uploading a property and then letting everyone bid for it and then it's just going to sell.
No.
I see it as it's still very much, there's a strategy.
Yes.
Probably more so strategy and needing an auctioneer as your partner.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a good opportunity to have someone like you where you're working with us, we're bouncing ideas, you're getting different insights and we have you as a coach. Like I'm sure this platform might offer some sort of services around that as well. But but I think there's a lot of value in having the person that you trust, that you have on your side as like what you do as an auctioneer.
Yeah, and that certainly ties back into what we were talking about before, about having that team that you've created of the people you have confidence in. So even as an agent, as an auctioneer, I'm looking at it with a slightly different set of eyes. So throughout that process, yes, definitely, there's value in having your trusted network around you to work through that process, even though per se, that's not a requirement for you to be successful through it. But certainly if it's something new, and it goes, George, what you were saying before about, trying new things, is having that network of people that you go, okay, so I've got my this, I've got my that, I've got my that, we can do this together because I know I've got heads that are going to be working with me on it to get a good result in the end, which is what we ultimately want. So I think it's really important to have, like you always say, and this was something that always resonated with me when I went into real estate. Who is your doctor? Who's your real estate agent? Who's your auctioneer? And they're the things that I want to be able to say for the teams that I work in, that, I'm the dude that they go to for that. And if they can't, then we go, okay, so when are you available? So that I know that my team's together all the way.
Yeah, creating an alignment. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I mean, do you have an alignment with other auctioneers? Is there an auctioneers club? Is there a school of tank of auctioneers? Or is there anything?
That's a good question.
Is there anything available to you? Because I know you have formed close relationships with real estate agents, but what about the other auctioneers? Yeah,
it's an interesting dynamic with other auctioneers because ultimately you are their competition, and there's a guy who is local to me geographically who also came out of a larger company and went out on his own and is creating his own energy. And I reached out to him and I said, mate, you're doing your thing, I'm doing mine. What about we just grab a coffee and we sit down? And on a level like that, yes, there's certainly a connection up, but I would think it would be more amongst like versus like in auctioneers as far as being am I going to go into one of the big auction houses and get support from them? No. There's no real cross networking there. They'll sit in the background and watch an auction of yours, and I go, "What are you doing there?" Other than that, there's no real, which is a shame, because I think that if we were all working cohesively together, it would be much better for everyone. But the larger auction homes don't have a need for me.
Right.
There's a lot of independent auctioneers out there that do their own thing, and it's not just the auction houses. And I think the auction houses idea isn't really about having that team of people you get to know, like, and trust, and you can mentor and get some guidance off in the moment. But that's a really good question, George. I mean, creating connection amongst auctioneers, I guess it's a bit of a question like, are real estate agents really making friends with each other? And a lot of the times they're not. They're competitors and what have you. But I actually don't really see it that way anymore. I definitely used to, but I actually find that there's so much business out there. There's so much available. And to think that there's enough for everybody. If we actually really, I remember, when the volumes came right down in, it was like in 2001 or 2002, there was a period of time for about 3 months where the volumes went right down and people were going doom and gloom in real estate, like it's not going to happen. And I just went, okay, I went and did a print off from RP Data or something, and I went, this is all the sales that have happened in our suburbs in the last 2 months, guys. And I showed the team, and they just went, wow. I said, there's more than enough than what we want, and that's all we have to focus on. And I think if we have that mindset and go, okay, where's the opportunity to connect? Because speaking to other auctioneers, Mitch, or real estate agents speaking to other real estate agents, I'm developing some great relationships with other real estate agents, and seeing agents joining together and finding ways they can actually support each other. Because, like, sometimes, there may be something, it's good to have that person you can lean on and say, hey, I'm having this situation. Have you ever dealt with this? And you create your own, like, little bit of a coaching. You can be accountable to each other and have somebody just to bounce off.
I think that's happening more so outside again of the bigger franchises in agents who have that within their own office.
Right.
But having said that, they don't always know that it's there, or they actually don't have it within their own office. They probably get more support outside of their office than what they are within their office. And I know I certainly had that experience. That I now, once I got out of the network and went out on my own, I went, okay, I'm actually having a lot more open conversations with people because I'm no longer a threat to them, and I'm here to support. And I think if you keep making relationships with people, supporting them, then, as the karma bus comes and parks itself in front of your door, that will come back to you.
Yeah.
It's just time, like everything, relationship building.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can agents get in touch with you, Mitch? Because I think you've been looking into some really good ideas and options around other alternatives. So give them not just private treaty or not just a straight traditional auction, but you've also got some good ideas around a hybrid option. So how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out to you if they want to just have a chat? And
well, best way probably as an initial point of contact is still through the socials. I don't even put myself into a website situation because I'm not quite sure what the value of it is. It's not that I don't want to pay for one. I just don't see what value I've got apart than putting my face up on it, and that's about it.
Well, your logo doesn't have a face.
That's it. It's a faceless
what are you worried about?
It's a sightless logo as well. No, but certainly through social medias, it's got all my contact details through there, phone numbers, and just have a chat. And I think, I'm more than happy to talk to people. I mean, yes, there are the larger corporations, but I find I add more value to smaller offices, 2, 3 agents, 4 agents, even independents who are working on their own, who are going, I just need that other person in my team, but I don't need to pay another wage. And this is an ideal opportunity where you've got me supporting you without, adding to your payroll.
Well, that's actually a great point, Mitch, because one of our agents, or the Ozway Members, has actually, told us how great it's been working with you, and how helpful and beneficial it is after, during the auction, before the auction, after the auction. The guidance that you've been able to provide has led to quite a few sales that probably never would have happened. But it was only because they got your guidance, and that's a real testament, and that's part of the reasons why you're being interviewed today on the Lean Agent, you
word of mouth,
get a real
recommendation.
And on that note, Mitch, I think we're moving into a more prudent world where the excess of having everything under one roof in a big head office is going the way of the dodo, or it should, because anyone who's smart financially would understand that it doesn't make any sense to keep people under the one roof when you can outsource so easily and not have those operational expenses biting into your profitability day in, day out.
Absolutely.
And that's why people would have, like the smarter people, would avail themselves of your services rather than keep someone in-house.
Sorry, Mitch.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, not having to manage staff as well, like that's a huge thing, a huge weight off your not having to pay them, not having to manage them, not have to handle that. You've actually just a really aligned team. That's so valuable.
But that's what I found moving out, and why I moved out to be an independent was so that I wasn't then being governed by other people's. I could run my own diary. I can run my own calendar. I know when I'm there. I know when I can make myself available for people. That's actually not being controlled externally. And that may be just me and my control issues. But I wanted to know that the service I gave was a service that I could really stand behind and know that I was in control of it rather than somebody else guiding it through. So, it works both ways. It's really good for the person who's moving away and giving them the option to provide a much better personalised service.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins, and of course that professionalised service. It means you're always sharpening the knife because you have to dance for your supper, which is
buck stops with me.
Exactly.
Buck stops with me.
There's actually, I know a lot of people are scared of that idea, but there is actually nothing finer in terms of a service and constantly improving a service for the community.
Yeah. And I've often reached out to not only the people I work with, but people who I may have worked with who are now not, chosen for whatever reason to move on to other people. And I'm always open to saying, okay, so what went wrong? Was there something I could have done better to improve my service?
Yes.
When I get to an auction and we don't get a sold under the hammer, and I feel like we could have, because obviously there's sometimes when it's just never going to happen. But when I feel like we could have got a result that day and it didn't go right, the best thing I can do is pick up the phone to the agent an hour later and go, can we just run through that scenario of what went wrong or how we could have improved our service collectively? Sometimes I get a really good response from that and people go, come on, can you come in and we'll sit around the table and talk about it? Other times people go, and I never hear from them again.
That's a huge point, Mitch. And what I'm hearing in that is that some agents are taking responsibility and some agents are blaming. And the thing is, it's easy to blame. If things don't go your way, the easy option is to blame. And the courageous pathway is to go, regardless of what's going on, a team is a team. As a team, let's take responsibility. I know I take responsibility for all of our team and anybody in my life. And I go, okay, how can I, because it's a powerful place to stand. It gives me a point to stand from where I can go, okay, I can look at myself. I can only change myself. I can't change Mitch or George or anybody else. Therefore, I can come from here, but I don't have to do it on my own. I can actually bring the team together and say, guys, gee, this didn't work. And what can we do better? What could I have done better? And to create an environment where somebody can honestly say to me, hey, Barry, maybe you should have set up the expectations a bit better there. That takes courage, because I guess you, Mitch, as a service provider, you don't necessarily want to upset the agent who's there employing you. But at the same time, that difficult conversation between you allows your relationship to get stronger and allows the trust to build. And actually, there's so many positives that can come out of those situations, but it does take courage. And it's not really courageous
separating
to say
the emotion from it as well, because we all get emotionally invested in what we do. And when something doesn't go right, you still, as much as we say, look, this isn't personal, but you go, yeah, it is. It feels personal right now, and it's because we cross the emotion and the practicality of our situations over. If we can just do that for a little minute and go, okay, so if I'm going to feel much better emotionally about it, if I fix something in there, or if we look at a case scenario and go, okay, we need to tweak that and not make it that way again. But a lot of people still guard that because they feel vulnerable. But if you come to people and say, and maybe my delivery could have been better in the conversation, maybe it was my delivery that didn't get that guy to come back and say, yeah, we totally need to do that. Let's work on our buyer management, because at the moment, if your buyer management is poor, then it's not a great result at the end of the day, because they're all going to stand there with their arms folded.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you're taking responsibility there, Mitch, because no one's perfect. No matter who you go to, no one's perfect. We can all have our good days and our bad days, and things just sometimes just don't work for whatever reasons, right? That's just life. We're human beings, and life is life. But I'm going to make an assertion that the agents that go and blame, and they might blame you and go, I'm going to go to another guy. They're going to go from guy to guy to guy, because they're not going to ever get the lesson. And if they actually just spent the time and had the courage confronting what could be there, they get an opportunity to actually better themselves and create more better relationships, more deals for their customers and clients, and better experiences, I would say, overall. Because I feel that that's actually a habit that's going to follow them everywhere. It's probably in their personal life. It's probably all over the place. And it certainly doesn't empower them. But I also
get having the courage to actually go to someone and say, do you know what is wrong here, or could I have done that better? To actually ask somebody else that, a lot of the time, is in their mind admitting failure, and it's actually admitting growth.
Well, even if you think, if I thought in my mind, you know what, this is the auctioneer's fault, it was Mitch's fault for some result. If I go at it with that attitude, that's going to lead to a clash. If I actually go into that conversation and say, hey, Mitch, that didn't go the way we wanted it to go, because you don't want it to go that way either. So I would have said that it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. What can you see that I could have done better?
Yes.
And me take the vulnerable step and the courageous step. That then creates a space for you to say, hey, what do you see that I could have done better? Which now all of a sudden, instead of us banging heads, we're actually coaching each other, and we're both getting some gold out of it to be able to move on to the next step, because we can't change what's happened. What's happened happens. We've got to let that go and move on.
And I think we all go into any situation, especially in a professional level, with the best of intention. No one goes in there to make a mistake or to send the wrong message, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's how you deliver that. And I've certainly had those interactions with agents where it's, can we just sit down and talk about what just happened? It didn't go the way I wanted it to go, whatever. And then I've had people confront it in a really ugly way. And I go, okay, so, we understand that we aren't the best match for each other. And and I go, it's time to let that go.
Well, that's perfect. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, that's also a powerful conversation, what I see. And it's probably a good idea to have a few different people that you speak to as well. It's like, I don't have one stylist. I have 2 or 3 stylists that I deal with. And you might have a few auctioneers that you deal with, because some clients you might go, you know what, this client is going to relate better to this person and that person. And you never know if somebody's away or they can't make it. It's just good to have a couple of people on your team and let them know who each other are. If I was to have, say, 2 auctioneers be my coaches and work with me, I'd want them to know who each other are and say, you're part of my team, guys. Some of my clients I'm going to see as a fit for you, some for another one. But I can then share that with other agents. Say, hey, this is a good team of guys. They've got 2 different personality types, and that could really benefit you in some cases. So
that's certainly the situation with some of the agents that I work with, who have got, because being independent, there is no backup. But if there is a backup, they want to know who it is. Whereas if you go in another direction and you have one of the large brands who certainly have someone at any time of day who can do an auction for you, but you get them there, you go, I didn't want that one because I don't feel comfortable with that one. And the way that you're suggesting actually and recommending gives you the option to have the people who you want to have at your hand. And if one can't do it, you've got the other one there.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, on that note, so if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Mitch, they'll reach out to you at Mitch Owers. Are you on, what platforms are you on? Are you on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and always on the end of my phone, right? Yeah.
Mitch, I just have to say that I look forward to the day when auctioneers can sing, dance, and play the ukulele.
play the ukulele. So I've got to add another bow to my string.
I'm sure you've got that already. You've got that. I know you
Hold
have.
on, let me go get my ukulele. No, there's no ukulele in the cupboard, let me tell you. Yeah.
Mitch, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Likewise.
For blessing us with your exuberance.
Thank you. That's energy and exuberance.
Yes.
That's a lovely way to finish and a nice way to cap it up. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a great chat.
Thank you.
Great.
Mitch.
Thanks,
You
George.
take care.
Have a great day.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.